Hey, this is Samantha Root, and today I'm going to talk to you about some of the different servant leadership skills. To a lot of people, leadership is a lot of different perks for being at such a high level. However, behind the scenes, leadership isn't always easy. Your biggest job is to create a relationship and aspire to lead others. You have to understand that you really need great partners in order to help you accomplish a goal, and you have to build and invest in those relationships to continue to help success of your organization. Being a leader is way more than being a singular individual. It's about a group of individuals coming together for the greater good. And there's no I in team, definitely. And just like this image says, the team is when together everyone achieves more. As a leader, you have to be able to focus on others' wants and needs. You have to understand their hopes, their dreams, their needs, and their interests, because when you build into those, you not only understand and identify who these people are you're working with as individuals, you're also working towards building a great community amongst your organization. There were a lot of different skills that I looked at, but one of the first ones that really stuck out to me was build relationships. This quote comes directly from our text, and I thought this was a pretty good start to this section. People won't follow you for very long, if at all, if your message is, I want to help you to help me become successful. They will follow you when your message is, I am here to help us all be successful in serving a common cause. This is really great because when you as the leader and your followers all are working together, it accomplishes something that is greater than you could ever imagine. And this is very reminiscent of transformational leadership. Transformational leadership was started by James Byrne, and he defined it as leaders and followers make each other advance to a higher level of morale and motivation. Later, Bernard Bass expanded upon those ideas, and he defined it based on the impact that it has on its followers. He also said that leaders with this style garner a lot of trust, respect, and admiration from their followers. There are 4 qualities that a leader has that with transformational leadership. They intellectually stimulate, which means that they have creativity and use it to apply to new learning opportunities, and they also foster that creativity and challenge people all the time. With individualized consideration, the next trait, they really foster positive, supportive relationships with each individual, and they have the ability to openly communicate different ideas. With inspirational motivation, they have a clear motivation that they can easily share and articulate with all of the people that follow them. And lastly, individualized influence. At the end of the day, leaders are role models, but more importantly, they are role models that people not only trust, but they also respect. Some qualities of a transformational leader are as follows. They're active listeners, they are adaptable, they are emotionally intelligent, they are supportive, they encourage communication and participation, they are creative, they are proactive problem solvers, and they have a willingness to take a responsibility at risk. Having these allow every single individual to succeed, and they want to help, and they also want to be involved in the process. Groups that are led by this leadership style are more loyal and more successful. There are a lot of positive effects for each individual. They have a better performance in their job. They have a better well-being and a better work-life balance, and they also have a sense of empowerment. These 3 things together and more allow people to feel so empowered that they want to go above and beyond than what is being asked of them. It's not just about you as a leader. A leader needs to know that they need great partners in order to help them achieve a goal, because they can't achieve much together. They have a shared vision and values with those they lead, and they can easily articulate what they want to share. And through making connections and building relationships, they build quality connections that help them to succeed and help them to thrive. All of these things working together, which makes everybody look really good with whatever your organization may be. Some notable examples: Barack Obama, Nelson Mandela, Oprah Winfrey, and Steve Jobs. These are fabulous leaders, and these are really notable people to follow. Not only are they great leaders, but they use skills such as communication, their vision, and their charisma in order to bring people together.
This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Another notable example is Martin Luther King Jr. On August 28, 1963, the Great March on Washington took place. Martin Luther King Jr. is known for his activist and civil rights work, and he fought for racial equality in a nonviolent manner. During this great march, he gave one of his most famous speeches, "I Have a Dream." What he does during this speech is something very impressive, the verbiage that he chooses to use. He uses words such as us, we, and our. And by using these words, it allowed every person, no matter their race, creed, or gender, to be unified to have the same dream of racial equality. When building relationships, you also really want to make sure that you connect others to your goal, and that way you can accomplish something more and better together. The next skill that I'm going to talk about is stewardship. Stewardship is acting upon understanding that leadership is a temporary role which is outlasted by the lifespan of an organization. It's not only focused about what you can do now to build a great organization, but what you can do for the future and to promote longevity of an organization as well. The most common definition of stewardship is a steward is a person that is given full responsibility for the value of another. They are continually developing and adjusting the vision and the mission for their company. They are preparing for an organization's future. They take an individual focus and grow it together by making it into a group development, and they invest in the people that are working alongside of them. It really focuses on people. Like I said before, when you focus on individuals' dreams, it connects them together and they can help you create something fantastic. This can be done at different types of levels. The first is the individual level, where people are creating environments that are conducive to happiness. When that happens, everyone really works well together and the individual is very much idealized. And from that individual perspective, it transfers over to a transformation to the team effectiveness. Later, at the institutional level, so kind of the bigger picture, you are creating appropriate values and missions. You are being mindful of a globally conscious steward. Being that we're a very digital age, anybody could look up any type of organization, so people are able to look you up and look at the things that you're doing. And those values are always constantly adjusting to the state of the world of what's going on around us. A good steward leader is somebody that is present. They have to be around. They are actively involved in the process of whatever it is that you're trying to do. They are willing to serve and they want to get their hands dirty. They want to help to get things done, and that there's no task or thing that is too low for them to participate in. The next is they are trustworthy and reliable. They take their duties very seriously. They are always making sure they solve problems very quickly, and they don't ignore any of the issues going around them. They are skilled and knowledgeable. They are lifelong learners, and they want to stay knowledgeable about any given subject matter, and they are confident in what they have. And the last is that they have foresight. They set time aside and the energy to be proactive in vision setting, and they're not just focused on the day-to-day stuff. They are focused on planning and preparing for any and all possible problems.
One sentence uttered here altered history. It was March 15, 1783, and the colonists had just won their independence, and the Congress was struggling to create the foundations for what this nation would be. So they were meeting to discuss a military dictatorship. Washington showed up, walked into the meeting, went to the front of the room, and he started to talk to the men to say, no, give Congress a chance to build the foundations of our country, of our nation. And towards the end of his talk, he realized he hadn't really captured them, he hadn't moved them, he hadn't convinced them. So he started to take out a letter from his pocket from Congress saying, we'll pay you, because the military was frustrated from not getting paid for their years of service. And he takes out this letter, but he fumbles, he can't read it. Then he reaches in his pocket again, takes out a pair of spectacles. And as he puts them on, he says, "Gentlemen, you will permit me to put on my spectacles if I've grown not only gray, but nearly blind in the service of my country." And the men wept because they realized that this man had served with them. This man had served a cause bigger than them, bigger than him, and not for himself. This is the man that would not be king. For thousands of years, if a military leader took over, they'd make themselves king. They create a new nation, they'd make themselves king. But George Washington wouldn't. And that paved the way for about half the world's population today to be living in a government that's democratic, where the people choose the leadership.
George Washington was the first president of the United States and a colonel for the U.S. Army. He is a great example of this video. He was a higher-up for the U.S. during the Revolutionary War, but because he was so high, he didn't want to let that stop him from getting things done. He did what he needed to do in order to make his army and his different people successful. Finally, is the personal applications of how I see this in my day-to-day. This can be seen through my duties as department head and teacher. As a teacher, I am building relationships with my parents and students. I am communicative as possible, and I'm helping my students to feel safe and comfortable, which will allow them to perform to the best of their ability. This is connected through stewardship as well, through my behavior expectations. At the beginning of the year, I'm really drilling those down, so then throughout the year, these students are able to maintain them without having too much reprimand. I look at the performance of each individual at the beginning of the year and assess how I can get them to where they need to go by the end of the 4th grade so that they are fully prepared for 5th grade, and I can make sure that they can accomplish all of the learning goals that they may have for themselves. As a department head, I'm really focused on building relationships with the 2 other teachers that are on my department team. These relationships are then fostered, and I am also the liaison between the other department heads as along with my administration. When we're all sitting and talking around, each person comes together to help build a greater community at our school. As our department head, I'm also focused on the longevity and thinking about events that are going on in our department. For example, this year we are leading a spring musical. There's a lot of things that go on into putting this, and there's a lot of planning and foresight to what the final product is going to be. At the beginning, this is going to take up a lot of planning time, but it's going to be well worth it when it is excellently executed. Here are some of my resources that if you wanted to take a look at some of my videos, or if you wanted to read some of my articles, here's everything that I have. Thank you so much.